Welcome to the world of the real. You might recognize that line from The Matrix, but there are reasons that I just used that quote. We are at the very beginning of an understanding, at least as far as Hollywood and the Hollywood trade papers are coming to discover, that, the Hollywood era of the memory hole has begun. That's right. Content can disappear at any point in time. When you're looking at streaming of anything, from just a television program that you enjoy or a film, just it could be there one day and gone the next. And that would include something that was recently produced. But this is all part of a bigger story. So, let's jump into it. Here we go. I find it rather amusing that the Hollywood Reporter is just coming to realize that maybe the possession of something in a physical form is very important. They have an article that's titled, and we'll take a look at it here, "Why'd That Movie Disappear? Welcome to Streaming's Memory Hole Era." That's right. And it's not just films, right? As they cite here, if American Pickle doesn't exist on HBO Max now, did it ever? It's an interesting thought experiment. In fact, it falls in line with what this particular article tries to talk about. The author, Thomas Doherty, talks about the philosophy that was envisioned by a creator long ago, a French director named Francois Truffaut. He basically suggested a thought experiment saying, imagine if there was only one copy of a book and that it was held in a single library and you could only read it if you were at the library. Well, that was what cinema used to be. So it wasn't that far-fetched to have that kind of a thought experiment. You used to go to the cinema, back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, whenever, you started that journey. There's not that many of you that are that old, but whenever you started that journey, you would go there, you'd see the film one time. If you were lucky, you had enough money to see it a second time. It was something that you loved. There wasn't a lot of repeats in the theaters at the cinemas. Movies would run longer, and there were opportunities to see it. But once it was gone, it was gone. In fact, sometimes it was really gone. Warner Brothers had a complete collapse of their historical films at one point in time because there was a fire at a New Jersey warehouse. That's pretty famous. Well, in order to, preserve some of that, there were some people that kept private prints of these films. You also had film schools acquire them, libraries. The Library of Congress, of course, started to collect them as well. And so at least there was some copies that would preserve the history of cinema, which is a good thing. That started to become more and more available to the general public through, obviously, VHS cassettes, right? That was probably the first thing you collected a film on, at least if you're my age. And then it went from that to, Laserdisc possibly, DVD, eventually Blu-ray, and of course 4K Blu-ray. But the requirement to acquire a physical copy of a film or television show became, less important, at least to some people, because streaming showed up on the planet. And, to that extent, you could watch pretty much anything that was ever created on Netflix. And eventually the other streaming services came along and started to make that less accessible, but at the same time, you could still go subscribe to a service and probably watch the thing you were looking for. Well, now, the realization is, at any point in time, a studio can pull from their library anything that's on their platform, making that ease of access completely disappear. And that's the conversation that we're having. And it came to light because, obviously, Batgirl signaled a opportunity for Warner to save some money and for people to recognize that just because something was created doesn't necessarily mean that it will be available at all. There's a lot of stuff that disappeared. In fact, there are 6 things that disappeared the same day that Batgirl was shelved. There were The Witches would be one of those things, American Pickle. Those things just disappeared, gone. It's like they weren't there before, which again is kind of in line with what this article is talking about. You can no longer access them. Will you ever be able to in the future? Maybe not. Maybe we will start to see the things as the culture shifts back to something more normal, which is going to happen at some point. You'll see things that were incredibly oriented around the modernity of the current kind of evaporate. And wouldn't that be a shame? Because we wouldn't be able to go back and point the finger at this was some of the garbage that was being pushed upon the audience in general. And these were the reasons why. Maybe this era will be lost completely. And again, while I hate this era of content creation, I think that preserving it so that we can present it to others for all of the darkness that it brought to us for so long and to the IPs that we love, I think it's going to or should be preserved. But this is something that's going to essentially inform even more folks in the audience. Collect physical media. Why? Because you have no idea if you'll ever see that thing again. Sometimes the only opportunity to see things, like you can see here in this article, is at a secret underground location screening of something that, you know, somehow leaked to the general public, somehow somebody has a print of, and you're only going to be able to see it in an unauthorized way. And you don't have to be part of that cool kids club to do that if you collect physical media in the first place. So at least the trades are paying attention now to the thing we've been talking about for a while, and that is the things that you love could disappear in a moment if you don't actually own them. And that doesn't just extend into the film and television world, it also should be extending into the video game area as well. I don't think a lot of people realize that if you buy something digitally, you don't own it forever. You might think you do, but you know, when you pull down something like the PlayStation Store or the Nintendo store for Wii or whatever, which that Wii store thing's going to disappear at some point here soon, you literally lost contact with something that you purchased but you didn't actually really technically own because you've never had it in your physical possession. So collect physical media, everybody. I guess that's basically the gist of this. But there's a lot more to the story, and a lot of these stories for this week and next week are going to be interconnected because that's just the way things are at the moment. These stories feed off of one another. Decisions by studios are going to bleed into other decisions by other studios, financials, etc., etc. So you might notice a theme for the next couple of weeks when it comes to the videos because everything seems to be interconnected. And with that being said, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a good idea to collect physical media? Do you think that the trade papers have actually woken up to the reality that things could disappear at any time? And, well, do you think it's worthwhile to preserve things long term, including those things that are terribly, terribly bad, infected with the modernity of the day? I'm interested in your opinion, so please put them in the comment section down below. Also, be sure to support independent content creators out there because obviously they are making content on the regular, and until they are removed from the platform, it should be available, right? Unless they make something that's terrible that they just decide to delete themselves. But for the most part, good or bad, I leave everything up. And you can find it here on my channel, and that's true for other independent content creators as well. And as I said, give them the like and the love that they deserve by subscribing, hitting the like button, commenting on their stuff, and again, sharing it out because it really helps. It really does. Be sure to take care of yourself, of course. Take care of others. Wash your hands because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye.
Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.